Love brought me back. Thank you, choir. That was awesome. Thank you, Janice, Larry, Craig. Thank you. And love brought all of you back. So great to see a full house. Five-year-old Brian was practicing for the Easter show at his spiritual center. And his line, he was one of the angels, so he got to say, "He's not here, he is risen." And so he practiced and practiced, and he was all ready for Easter Sunday. And when they got to the play, when it got to his turn, he forgot his lines. And he's fretting and he's worried, and he looks over at his Sunday school teacher, and she's whispering to him what it is, and he's like, "I got this." He sees this big smile on his face, and he grabs the microphone triumphantly and says, "He's not here, he's in prison." I love that, because you know what happens when we're in the tomb or on the cross or having a life experience that is not so pleasant? We can feel imprisoned. I love Easter. It's my favorite holiday of the whole year because it's about new life. All four Gospels in the Bible talk about the resurrection. In all four Gospels, it's Mary who discovers the empty tomb. In the book, according to Matthew, she's walking to the tomb, and there's suddenly an earthquake. And there's a bright angel that comes and rolls the stone away. And he says, "If you're looking for Jesus, he's not here. He is risen as he said he would be." And she looked inside, and he wasn't there. And she was filled with fear and joy. And the angel said, "Go and tell his disciples to meet him in Galilee." And she left there filled with fear, afraid. It says she was afraid and filled with joy. Afraid and filled with joy. How many of us have been afraid and filled with joy at the same time? And the story we hear each year at this time at Easter, we hear the same story. Same Sunday school teacher asking one of the little boys, or they had the same story told to them. The mom says to the little boy afterwards, "How was Sunday school today? Did you like your Easter celebration?" And he said, "Oh, you know, same old, the guy got away again." But, you know, what does this story have to do with our lives today? We may look at it and go, "Okay, nice story. Yeah, we've heard this one before." But it has to do with our lives now. What does it have to do with us now? Eric Butterworth says this in Discover the Power Within You: Easter is not a passport to another world. It is a time to take a new look at ourselves and contemplate the divinity in us, the depth of our own innate God potential. The depth of our own innate God potential. We, each of us, have this God potential in us. And Easter isn't a time just to think about what Jesus overcame, but what have we overcome? What are we overcoming? What challenges are we facing right now? Are we stuck? Are we blocked? Are we feeling trapped? In Aramaic, in the language that Jesus spoke, death means existing elsewhere. And when we're experiencing this existing elsewhere, this kind of death, we're not living in the present moment. We're hanging on to old hurts, old resentments, replaying situations in our lives. We need to live in the present moment. And that's what the Easter story reminds us of for us today. that we can overcome, that there is new life after this painful experience, after this challenge, after this health challenge, this heartbreak. There's new life. And that's what this story is here to remind us, to give us hope, to have us look at something beyond what we're experiencing right here in this moment, that there's a crack in that stone, that there's light coming through it. And in the story, they talk about an earthquake, and we need to be shook up. We need to be, okay, we've had enough of this. Enough of this time in the tomb, enough of this time on the cross. We need to get to that point where we say, enough already. And that's what the earthquake represents. It shakes us up so that we can roll away that stone. What is that stone for you? What is that limitation for you or that burden for you that is standing in the way of you experiencing life more fully, more joyfully, more lovingly? We all have them from time to time. And life is always an invitation. It's a constant invitation. This is not a one-time experience. It's an occurring all the time in our lives. Yeah, I was thinking, what word am I looking for here? What is standing in the way of new life for us? Let love bring you back to yourself. Let love bring you back to your divine self. There's a part of us that is always unseen, but always there. That we don't see it. We often don't see our own potential, but it's always there. And Rumi says, everyone sees the unseen in proportion to the clarity of their hearts. Everyone sees the unseen in proportion to the clarity of their hearts. Each time we roll away the stone, our hearts get more clear. We see more of our divine essence. We see more of who we are. We realize more of our potential. And Easter reminds us of that potential, that divine potential that is within each of us. And how do we do this? How do we do it? We have to practice it. I've been studying some of the Gospels that didn't make it into the Bible. And the Gospel of Philip, he talks about how if you thought that Jesus died and then resurrected, and that was the order of things, you were wrong. Jesus died many times before he was crucified. He died to the ego. He died to those things that held him back. And he resurrected new life while still in his body before he was crucified. We have to practice that. Die to those egoic impulses, those egoic powers, so that we can experience new life. Constantly, we're invited into that. We may not want to do it, but there's joy on the other side. We have to cross that threshold into new life. In the Gospel of Philip, it says, there are people who walk a great deal and never get anywhere. We walk around in circles when we're stuck in our patterns, when we're living according to our paradigms. We don't get anywhere. We want to step out of that pattern. Stop going around and spinning around in circles in the tomb. We're in a path inside that tomb, and cross over that threshold out into new life. Let love bring you back to that life that is always longing to come through you and as you. What a great reminder with this story. Some of you are reading Mary Magdalene Revealed. It's one of my favorite books from last year. And in it, she talks about how Mary Magdalene was the one to realize the tomb was empty. Mary Magdalene was the one to see Jesus first, which was a slap in the face to men of the time. But she saw him first because her love for him was so great, she never saw them as separate. That she saw him with eyes of love, with a heart. She saw him with her heart as a vision. Love brought her back to experiencing him. Let love bring you back. When we know that presence, when we know love's presence, we are never alone. We never feel separate from anyone. When we can stay awake to that presence that's always in us, always available to us. I was watching a video this week of Maya Angelou, and in it she talks about how when she was 17 and she had her first baby, she was living with her mom, and her mom had a big house, but she decided she needed to go off on her own. So she told her mom that she was going to move out with her. She goes, "You're taking the baby?" And she said, "Yes, I'm taking the baby." She said, I rented a room. It has kitchen privileges down the hall. The landlady's going to babysit for me. I got a job. I need to do this. And she said, "Remember, you were raised right. Don't let anybody put you down." And she said when she would be battered and beaten and broken and go back home, her mom always welcomed her back. There was never an "I told you so." It was just a "let me feed you, baby. Let me feed you. Let me nourish you. Let me take care of you." Love can lead us out into the world, and love can lead us back to that place where we're fed, back to that place within us, back to ourselves. She also said that when she was about 22, and she was getting ready to leave her mom's house again, her mom gave her a kiss, and she said, "I want you to remember this. You are one of the greatest women I know. You're right up there with Eleanor Roosevelt and my mother. And you can do anything you set your mind to." She said she knew a love so strong, she thought, maybe I can. Maybe I will make a difference in some lives. Maybe I am great. That is the message for each of us on Easter, that there is more life, renewed life, a new way of being, that we have this potential for greatness in us. Don't let anybody tell you different. Each one of you has that potential. Each one of you has that within you. Are you ready to roll away the stone? Are you ready to experience new life? Let love bring you back to yourself. In A Course in Miracles, it says, "The holiest place on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love." Isn't that beautiful? An ancient hatred. Hatreds don't live in the present moment. They live in our memories of past hurts. So the most holy place is when we let go of that, when we stop feeling like we're imprisoned and allow ourselves to cross that threshold into new life. Let love bring you back to yourself.
Boy, I haven't seen this for a while. As I reflected on what was it, how exactly did love bring me back to myself, I realized that it was through truth. I was in my senior year in college, and it was about 6 months before graduation. You may remember that I was raised in Unity, so I was a good true student, right? So I'm trying to get clear on what do I want my life after college to look like so I can begin to visualize it now, begin to help bring it manifest. And I'm thinking about the kinds of places I want to live, what kind of job how much money do I want to make, and all those things that go through when this idea came to me clear as a bell. I want to come out. I want to come out that I'm gay. Such a shock to me. I had never told anyone I was gay. I had never considered coming out. You know, me think, why wouldn't you at least consider it? I experienced no support in my life for being gay. In fact, and you know, when you're part of a minority, you hear everything about that minority. You're very sensitive to what you hear. And I felt like I got just a steady diet of how awful it was to be a gay person. So, and if we put it in context of Easter, I took everything of me that had to do with gay and I locked it in the tomb. I put the biggest boulder you've ever seen, the kind that, you know, could not possibly be rolled into that or in front of that tomb. So, how on earth did that idea come to me? And I've come to believe that it was grace. Touches me just to say it. We're never walking this journey alone. And what is grace? I read probably a dozen different definitions of grace, and I ended up picking the most traditional. Here's how it reads. In Christian theology, grace is a spontaneous, unmerited gift of the divine favor in the salvation of sinners and the divine influence operating in individuals for their regeneration and sanctification. I wasn't sure what sanctification meant, so I looked that up. The action or process of being freed from sin or purified. Sin has such a bad rap. In Unity, we look at it as its origins in archery, which says just missing the mark. And you see, I was missing the mark. I knew that I was gay at age 12, but I wasn't ready to take on the world at age 12. And the world demands conformity. And so I tried to conform. But at age 21, I had a different level of development and maturity. I was ready in some ways. And so a gift from the divine. You're going to find on the spiritual path that grace is a big part of it. We've locked so many things into the tomb. It's crazy. And so I set my intention on coming out. And there was a certain joy, right, in coming to this. And I interviewed and I did some research, found out Minneapolis was a really gay-friendly place with a vibrant community, just 100 miles from one of my favorite places in the world, Clear Lake, Iowa, where our family had summered for years. Interviewed, got offered several jobs there, went there, found an apartment right away. The doors are opening, right? So you might be saying, well, where's the crucifixion? There's got to be a crucifixion somewhere, right? What I didn't know was by locking myself away, of course, I'd been crucified. That's a rough place to be. But the real crucifixion happened for me the day I actually moved. I lived in Steamboat Springs, packed up my car the day before, packed up a U-Haul trailer, left before anybody in the family was awake. And I knew I wasn't going to make it in one day, but I had a 15-hour drive. Oh my God. I felt so alone, right? I'm leaving everything I know. There's a huge risk in my mind that there's a chance of losing everyone I love. And I'm sad, I'm crying, I'm really emotional. And then I get angry, and it's that, God, why do we have to do this? My God, why have you forsaken me? Anybody else ever been there? And then I cried some more, and I probably got angry some more. It was divine order that I had a 15-hour drive, right? Because I've come to think that actually that was the tomb experience for me. Charles Fillmore says the tomb is the place where we metabolize that which has happened to us. As we've hung on the cross long enough and something has brought us down, we need to metabolize and bring it into consciousness. I'd never told anyone I was gay. Once I settled down, I started saying to myself, I'm gay. Just to, get the feel of it. The next day, I got the keys to my apartment. I was unloading my apartment. The two women who lived across the hall came out. Hi, we're Lynn and Patty. I said, I'm Scott. I'm gay. Starting to metabolize it, right? They introduced me to all their friends. I mean, it was pretty amazing, right? And I found out something really fast, that everything I had been told about being gay was a non-truth. I was meeting incredible people, big-hearted people, highly creative people, people that really contributed to society. I felt duped. I felt like if I had known this, I could have at least come out in college, right? I passed up 4 years. And it started my relationship with the truth. I realized I can't trust the truth that the world gives me. What is my truth? What am I being called to do? And I got tested, over and over again. I went to work for a very conservative, it was a CPA firm, one of the big ones at the time, but there was a certain, they took care of us, let's say. So we still had formals, if you will, and big sit-down dinners with the staff, and everyone brought somebody, right? And so for a long time, I had an excuse not to bring someone. I was single. But then I started dating a guy, John, bless his heart. Because as I thought about it, everyone else brings who they're dating. I'm going to bring John. And oh my God, the crucifixion starts again. You're loving your life right now. This job supports you and having the life that you want. What are you doing? Are you crazy? And yet, we showed up and we were embraced. In fact, I got to know people in the firm that I hadn't gotten to know yet. And interestingly enough, the next week, everyone seemed to know me. I thought it was going to hurt my career. It actually helped my career. But that all makes it seem like a cakewalk. I love this little cartoon. You can't read his sign, but it said, "Followed my bliss." He's homeless. It's been on my desk for years, literally, and I've cleaned out my desk here. I wasn't expecting that. The timing of going through our crucifixion and resurrection experience isn't always so nicely tied together. Sometimes it feels like we're being crucified for a long time and we don't have a choice, especially if you're in a minority. Sometimes we have to hang in the tomb for a while before it becomes clear to us how to roll away the stone. And in truth, I actually think Spirit rolls away the stone. So I was developing a trust in the truth. Then I took my first church was here in Colorado also, and I was introduced to the Ridwan School, where I was then introduced to inquiry. And that's where I learned to love the truth. For you see, in inquiry, like I got the advantage of going through what they called the transformational model in the Unity Ministerial Program, but they created these scenarios that were intended to push your buttons, and then we worked through them. But what you find out when you are willing to say, what is the truth here? To enter into an inquiry, that life is constantly inviting you to be sanctified, to be free. I mean, just even last week, it's such simple stuff. Many of you have started to express your gratitude towards me, and I found last week I was really uncomfortable with it. I thought, why would I be uncomfortable with people expressing their truth to me? So I said, what is the truth here? And I got to work with it in my small group. I got to work with it with another inquiry partner. And I got to see that because there was really no support for me to just be me, I worked hard as a kid to be what I thought I should be. And it was so much efforting, and I felt like a total fake. And I am afraid to let people, and when that gets triggered, I'm afraid for people to be close because I don't want them to see that I'm fake. And once I got to see that, began to relax in me. So today, bring it on. I'm ready. I mean, that's what happens. It's like a new life, right? It's like, I bet I could handle it now because I see what the issue is. And I have compassion for why that happened. What's your relationship with truth? You know, truth is, often we use truth and spirit synonymously. What's your relationship with truth? Do you trust it? Do you love it? How's truth working you right now? You got something that's not quite comfortable going on in your life? Something where maybe it used to fit well, something about your life, it's not fitting so well right now. That's the truth, doing its thing. What I know from experience is love expressing as grace, which is, dare I say it, God's love for you. Or truth as an expression of spirit. It's love. And it's love bringing you back. Can you let love bring you back? We're going to move into our anointing now. Anointing, as we were reminded in our prayer, we get together and pray before the service. Anointing is actually, Christ was the anointed one. And so where are the anointed